This tutorial will cover how to record different types of assessment data in PowerTeacher Gradebook. So here we are back in our physics class, and we want to take a look at how to enter grades for assignments. So I just wanted to show you that I have entered grades for some assignments, and to keep things simple, everybody got 70% in everything. I just want to make some of the calculations visible to you and some of the functions. And I'm using my filter, my category filter, to show just the application assignments so that we can enter grades just for a couple of assignments. So I can show you a couple of different things. So the most straightforward thing you can do here is enter numeric data. So I can type numbers in the cell corresponding to each student that indicate what their grade is on the assignment. I did choose percentage as my default for these. If you choose points, if you do something out of 10, that's fine. You can type whatever the score is out of 10. I'm sticking with percentages today just to make the calculations more visible, but a 7 out of 10 would give the same result as a 70%. So some other things that you can do in Gradebook that you may be interested in are, in addition to these numeric grades, if I right click on here, I have some other interesting options. So I can enter grades, so I can use these menus to choose different grades to enter. But I can I'll also do things like show that an assignment has been collected. So a check mark appears in that space to show that an assignment has been collected. I can show that an assignment is missing. I haven't collected it yet, so a little M shows up in an orange circle to designate that the assignment is missing. It hasn't been collected yet. And so you could use this as a way to track which assignments have been collected or not. People have different ways of tracking this type of thing, of course, but it's just an idea. The other thing is that then when you grade the assignment, you could enter a mark, and that gets rid of the check mark. The check mark is replaced by the mark. If somebody submitted an assignment late, so let's say this assignment that was missing did eventually get submitted, but it was submitted late, then I could grade the assignment. It's no longer missing, so the M disappears, but the little red circle with the L in it remains. And that might be useful to you if you want to track student work habits a little bit, or keep your eyes on students who are having difficulty completing things on time. So something where there might be an area of concern. The other thing we've got here is exempt, which is interesting. So I'm going to show you how exempt works. So we take a look at this student here, this grade that I just entered. I'm going to change that grade to 30%. And we can see over here in our final grade calculation, the student's grade has gone from 70%, which was what the student got on all of their assignments, to 67. So this assignment has negatively affected their final grade based on the calculations that we talked about in an earlier tutorial. If I right click and select exempt, then that score becomes grayed out and it's no longer counting in that student's calculation. So that's the equivalent to a no mark in Markbook, and this has the added benefit of allowing you to record what the score is so that you can see what the score is, but also have it not affect the student's grade. So if you decide to drop an assignment for a student, this is a way that you could drop an assignment with a low grade that maybe doesn't best represent how well they're doing in the class, but still have a record of that assignment there. If you leave a space blank, that's also the equivalent of a no mark. So both of these cells are doing the same thing. The only difference is this one that we've marked as exempt does record the 30% grade there. If you leave it blank, then that's as if the assignment never existed. So if we take a look here, I'm also going to put in a 0 for somebody, a 0 that counts, so we can see the difference between getting 30% on this assignment and 0% on this assignment is definitely shown in the final grade there. So I'm just going to do some filling in. Very creative, I know. So these are the different options that we have for recording numeric information and also showing what the program calls attributes. So collected, late, exempt, or missing are attributes that we can add to a score. So something else you might be interested in is we can look at some detail. We can show the score inspector. So here's the score inspector, and what we've got here, we can look at the students' report card comments, but for the individual score, okay, we've got 70% as the score in this assignment. We're showing that it's late, and we might want to make some kind of notation about the assignment. So maybe you want to write make a note of the type of feedback that you gave the student, or maybe something that they found challenging for that assignment. This is our unit test, and so you might say had trouble drawing free body diagrams. That's, some people might want to put something like that there so that they know what the student needs to still continue to work on. In the comment, you might also, since this assignment was late, you might want to write down why it's late. So maybe was away at a hockey tournament, because we know that happens. And that's a way of showing you that it's late, but that there was perhaps a valid excuse. If there's a valid excuse, you might not want to label it as late at all, but you don't have to use any of these features. All of these things are optional. It's just really nice to know what features are available when you're working with a new program. A little C in a blue circle has appeared here to show me that there is a comment associated with this grade. So that's a little reminder that that comment is there. So aside from numeric grades, we might want to consider what other types of grades or assessment data we can enter in Gradebook, because we do have some other sort of neat choices. So if I take a look at all of my assignments here, I did make another category, an assessment category called observations, but I never did add an assignment in that was under that category. So let's say I was observing students while they were doing problem solving. Okay, so this assessment number 2. I can add an observation that goes along with that activity. If I was observing students on that day and making notes, I could have made those notes using Gradebook. Now, you might be saying, haha, you've numbered the assignments, and now things are going to be out of order if I want that to go with problem solving. But I have a solution for that. I'm going to call this O2A, and that will keep these things in alphabetical order, which I'm going to be happy about. And we're going to call it problem solving observation. And it's going to be in the observation category. We made our default letter grade for this, which is what I do want, and our default is also that it is not included in the final grade, and so that I am happy with, so I'm going to leave that as it is. And we can see our problem solving observation is popping up right beside the activity that was happening while the observation was going on, and that makes me happy. I can probably make it go after if I make it happen on the date, the same date. There we go. So both of those things happened on February 3rd, and when they're in alphabetical order, they appear this way here. So if we would like to enter some information for this new assignment that I've created, and we want to have a letter grade, if we go over here, we don't seem to have letter grade as an option. I can see the list of all of these grades, and I can go to the score inspector and see like what possible scores. And we've got here a couple of things. We've got A, L, T, and I, which you might want to use for incomplete. And I'm not sure what ALT even stands for. I haven't looked that up yet. But you can create your own codes to go here, and that's what I want to show you. So in either your file menu, it will be your leftmost menu. We want to find preferences, and when preferences pops up, we can see a report card comment bank, some information about grading, things about rounding numbers, mail signatures, and finally score codes. So score codes is what we want in this case. So we want to add some score codes that go with our observations having to do with problem solving. And I'm going to create some sort of generic codes right now that we could use for different types of observations. And I'm going to create some that are based on sort of student proficiency in that area. So I'm going to call this one novice. So maybe whatever problem solving skill you were observing, you would select this for a student who's just starting to learn about using that skill. And we're saying that this is exempt from grades, non-numeric value completely. So I've got novice, and I'm going to add a few more categories. Okay, so I've created 4 numeric codes that I could use for my student observations. And as I said, these are fairly generic, but they will be maybe good for a demonstration here. So I can use those score codes that I've created to make my observations on students while they're doing this task. And I'm going to go to the score inspector for this. I find that the easiest way to do it. And what we can see is that the numeric codes are still there, but my letter codes have appeared. So I can choose competent for the first student. I've got some arrows here I can use to navigate my way through the list. So maybe you've got someone who's an expert problem solver, a couple of novice problem solvers, and so on down the list. So you can fill those spots with non-numeric data, which might be really important to your assessment of how those students are doing with their learning. While we're here, I'm going to show you how I quickly filled some scores before. So if we wanted to fill assignment scores, I'm going to replace anything that doesn't have a score in this list with, let's make them all experts, say okay, and I filled all of those scores. So that's not something you would normally use, but it's handy if you need to fill in some things quickly that are going to be the same. All right, so I hope you enjoyed your look at adding numeric or non-numeric data for different assignments, and I hope that it was helpful.